What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Closing the Deal. I am your host, Sam Enright, and sitting across from me is my co-host, Zach Dixon. What's up? How are you, bro?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing this morning?
I'm pretty good. Had a little bit of some technical difficulties while we got in here. Still currently having them. My screen is showing a green screen, so can't really tell what the heck we're looking at, but it's all good. We're hoping it comes through for you guys on the YouTube side of things. If you're on audio, you probably got nothing to be concerned with whatsoever. You can't see anything anyways, so
It builds character for us. A little bit of resiliency. We got to face a little bit of adversity and you got to get through it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. There's nothing worse than technical issues, I'll tell you. It's just they can be so frustrating. The
Especially
technology's great, but
yeah, especially for us. Like obviously we're in the age where we know how to work everything, or you know what I mean, know how to work everything. Uh, but I'm not very technologically advanced for my age. I would say if there's an issue going on, I'm probably not going to be able to figure it out. I'm gonna have to call my IT department for sure because I'm not very advanced. I would say I'm more of an old head on that aspect of things.
I don't know if I go that far. I mean, I think we're not the 20-year-olds running Doge, going through and auditing things with. We ain't that high tech, but I mean, we're enough to keep things going in the right direction. I feel like a little bit of troubleshooting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so you had a pretty good weekend last weekend, no? What all did you get into with that with up in Cleveland?
Yeah, I went up. Had a went to a tattoo convention up in Cleveland, Ohio. So it's like their 10th annual, but it's called Villain Arts. They do them all across the country. And really good friend of ours is a tattoo artist, local in Columbus, Ohio, and invited me to come up and get a tattoo done. So we went up there last Thursday evening and went to the convention on Friday, and it was a long weekend because we actually pit stopped over at my fiance's sister's final basketball game because she goes to school up in Cleveland. So we went over there, and then we came back to town on Saturday night and had a birthday party to go to. So just a lot going on there last weekend, but it was fun, and the tattoo convention was a good time. And we didn't quite get everything that we wanted to done, but still had a good time, and it was pretty cool. I'd never been to one before, so it was cool to check out. But
I'm sure a lot of different types of people there too. Like, I mean, just like you're gonna see a lot of different things up at those things. I feel like,
oh
and
yeah,
obviously good for our buddy too, Dustin, to get up there and showcase some of his work to some other artists and some other clients, and all in all, it sounded like it was a pretty good time, and got a sneak peek of the vlog maybe coming out here in a couple of days too. So looked
yeah,
looked like a pretty good time too. So
yep. I did mess around with a little bit of a vlog series, so I'm hoping to get that one posted. Just yeah, I don't know. It's been kind of fun to mess around with all this video stuff and recording and editing. So I just figured, why not document the trip up there. So I built this little phone thing, with a little wireless charger pack, and got some wireless microphones, and it was kind of the whole kit and kabang without buying $600 $800 camera to take up with me. But it was cool. I think everything turned out pretty great. I mean, I didn't really know this, but obviously our phones record in 4K. So even the iPhone 12 that I previously had, so I was like, yeah, it's not bad. Record up
it'll
to
def-
60 frames per second and 4K. I mean, shoot, it's
probably
paid off.
yeah. If you're buying a camera with those specs, you're probably going to spend a couple $100 at the very minimum. So might
Oh
as well
yeah,
just use the phone that you already have. That's for sure.
yep. Absolutely. So I'll be excited to show you. I mean, by the time this one comes out for you guys and you're listening to this episode, this YouTube video will probably be a couple weeks old. But yeah, if you guys haven't already and you're listening to this, go check it out. It'll be on my own personal YouTube page. So had fun with creating it. So
We do a lot of fun things in life, and sometimes I think personally I forget to take my phone out and just snap a picture, snap a video, and something that I'm going to be a little bit more cognizant of moving forward for sure. Just capture some of the moments that we have in life, some of the memories for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know we touched on this when we first started this podcast. It was never a strong suit of ours. I mean, if you guys go look at our social media pages, pretty inactive for the last few years. And, kind of, I'm sure to some people it feels like this just came out of the woodwork. Like, where the heck these guys been at? But, the more you get involved in this life and the more, you record podcasts and, you post videos of yourself, I guess, I don't know, it's almost been kind of freeing, for me. And I'm sure for you as well. And just like, who really cares? I mean, people are going to tune in or they're not. And, if you enjoy doing it and it's fun for you, then, I know a lot of people get stopped at, well, what are people going to think? Or, you know, what are they going to say about this? And, I don't know. I've sat at home and looked at my computer and looked at my phone and watched people who do vlogs and put their life out there. And I'm like, man, I wish I was doing that. You know what I'm saying? And that's usually where most people come from. I feel like most people want that. So if you are someone who is interested in that, just do it. It's pretty cool so far. So I think it's really opened our eyes to the power of, just like you said, taking your phone out, taking pictures, taking videos, and just kind of putting those memories together. So
Absolutely. Like you said, just do it. One of the big things that stuck with me as we have gotten started with this journey is just take imperfect action. A lot of the things that you're going to do are not ever going to be perfect, and if you sit around waiting for that perfect moment or that perfect video or perfect picture, you're probably not ever going to find it. So take imperfect action. Just do something. Something is always going to be better than nothing. So
yep.
that's the biggest thing that I've learned so far.
Oh, absolutely, man.
So we have a pretty good episode for us today. We're just going to be touching a little bit on the personal side of things, but also or the episode is how we got into the business, the real estate business as a whole. So obviously touching a little bit on the personal side, but moving it into business as well. So getting started, what exactly inspired you specifically to enter the real estate industry as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget this time period of my life, because, you know, I got a little bit of maybe a complicated past when it comes to work histories and such. I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, I went to college for like 3 months and then ended up dropping out. And there for a couple of years, I just kind of filtered in and out of different jobs. And when I got to 21, I just was a little bit. I don't know if lost is a great word, but just a little not sure what I wanted to do with my life. And so, my dad has been in the mortgage business for now, I don't know, like 26 years or something like that. And so my uncle's been in the business a while as well. And at that time, they had just recently moved to the company that we're with, Kaysen, and they were going down to Florida to meet with the owner of the company and just kind of go down there. And I was like, hey, would you guys mind if I tag along? And I just went down there and met with the owner of our company and hung out with them for a couple of days. And it just inspired me to be like, you know what, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to join the mortgage business. And so I came home and got busy on that. But that was kind of the inspiration. I just honestly wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. And, that trip, I guess, kind of changed everything for me. I asked to go and I didn't go with the intention of like, oh, yeah, I think I just kind of wanted to go on the trip and just be a part of that. And, I think that thought was kind of in the back of my head, but it wasn't like for certain, like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I just want to go. It was, just wanted to tag along. And, that kind of changed everything for me and the way that I thought about it. So,
That's awesome. Awesome to hear for sure, because I feel like, family is a big influence in our life regardless. And when your family is successful in one thing and you see that and you want to, emulate it, it plays a big role into, how we grow up as children into young adult and into adult life as well. So that's awesome for sure.
yeah, yeah. What about you? What was your, I guess, maybe inspiration or kind of the background of what drove you to? I know you talked about it, I think, on our intro podcast, but what was the driving force in getting you in the business?
I would say the same exact thing, to be honest with you, is really just indecision and family. Obviously, I started out my college career at Heidelberg University up in Tiffin, playing baseball. Played baseball up there for a couple of years, and then decided to transfer to Ohio State. And at that point, was just not determined on a major. Up at Heidelberg, I was a business major with um, no focus. So nothing like logistics or accounting or anything like that, just kind of a general business major. And then so when I moved to Ohio State, knew I was going to stay in business, but then Ohio State actually offered a specialization in the business school of real estate. And real estate has always obviously intrigued me. I know that a lot of the millionaires that are built here in the United States are built from real estate. And then growing up, my family was heavily involved in real estate through a lot of different aspects. My dad actually started out as a loan officer when I was a very young, like 2 or 3 years old, and then he moved over to the title side and has been on the title side ever since. Actually works for Stroot Title in Westerville. They're actually headquartered in Houston, Texas, so a publicly traded company and a pretty large one at that. And then my uncle and grandfather are both investors. They have multiple properties out in Newark. And so, just as a kid going through their rental properties when they're doing a turnover, painting it, just walking through it, it just got me excited to want to do that for myself in the future. And so when I found out that Ohio State had a real estate specialization, that was pretty much it. I decided on that. And yeah, ever since then, I've been with my company, RZ Realty. I started as an intern when I was still in school. So when COVID hit, I was actually in my second semester of my senior year. And obviously, when COVID hit, they canceled all of our in-person classes. And so that allowed me to take on a full-time role at RZ Realty from my intern role. And I'm still in that full-time role on our property management side. And so I'm a property manager and account manager, make sure all of our payables and receivables are paid, and then making sure that the properties that I manage are doing well and income producing for our owners. And so that is what I do in addition to being a real estate agent as well. And so been super exciting. It's all in all a great journey from, walking through rental properties as a kid to now at this point, kind of plotting on my own real estate portfolio as a whole. So super exciting for sure.
Yeah, well, I want to stop off. I know you kind of touched on it a little bit there, but I think there's a key memory that I have with you specifically. I remember I feel like we were at Denison Golf Club at the time, and I will always forever remember this. But this is going to kind of encompass a little bit. I know you talked about education and training, but kind of talk to them a little bit about what it takes to actually become a real estate agent, and any tests that you have to pass or anything like that. What kind of certifications do you need, and what was that journey like for you through that?
Definitely. So I would say 90% of the real estate agents that are licensed, they do their initial education requirements through a service called Hondros. So they do nursing services, they do real estate education as well. But 90% of the agents that get licensed are going to do all of their education requirements through Hondros. Now, me personally, I was able to complete my education requirements through my degree at Ohio State. So the classes that I took at Ohio State for my major actually applied to the Ohio Department of Licensure for a real estate license. So I didn't have to take any additional classes at Hondros. All of my classes were included with my major at Ohio State, which is a positive for sure. The classes at Hondros aren't super expensive. I think 1,500 or $2,000 in total. So a lot less expensive than what a college tuition is. But the positive that I got out of my college experience was the relationships that I built with, other classmates as well as professors as well. I've got 2 or 3 professors that I still kind of, go back and forth with, and they actually have relationships with my broker as well. So that's kind of what started those relationships in school, was the fact that I told them about I was working at RZ Realty with my broker, and obviously I've continued those things on from there. So after I got my education requirements done, and any agent that is wanting to get licensed, you do have to pass a state license test as well as a national license test. And so when I went to take the test for the first time, I unfortunately failed the state portion. I passed the national portion, and that put me into a kind of an upsetting mood situation. I was really down on myself with it. I remember going to lunch with my broker the day that I failed, and I told him that I was not going to take it again because I was so distraught that I failed a test. It's really just, it was a pride thing for me. I have been a really good test taker throughout the entirety of my academic career, and so when I failed that and something that I felt very very comfortable with, it really put me into a bad mood. But obviously, ultimately got out of that. Went to take the test again. I think a month and a half after I failed it the first time, and passed the state portion at that time as well. So if you do fail one portion of it, you only have to take that one portion again, which is the nice thing. You don't have to take the portion that you already passed and hope that you pass it again. So got my license in November of 2020, and then been working on deals ever since then. So it's been a fun time. It was an interesting time to get licensed, that's for sure. Crazy market, and it's been like that ever since, really. So how about you? Education and tests. I know that there's state tests, right, for lenders.
Well, I think it's national as well, but adopted by states. So you can have specific state requirements, but it's the NMLS that test that you have to pass. So, well, I just wanted to stop off there and say that I do remember that as well. You know, not only did you tell your broker that you were never going to take the test again, you also told me that you were never going to take the test again, and had to light you up a little bit on that one. But you definitely come a long way as it pertains to, that sort of stuff. Back then, that adversity, kicked you while you, kicked you down, and you didn't want to get back up. So, but I'm glad you did. And I just remember, I swear we were at Denison Golf Club, and you're like, I'm just not doing this anymore. I can't take this test again. And, the whole kit and kabang. I'm just like, yeah, no, not hearing it, bud. You need to go back and take that. So, but but as for my education, so you really are only required, and honestly, it's been so long since I've done this. I got licensed in 2018, so I believe there is a 20-hour. Actually, I don't believe. I know that there's a 20-hour online course that you have to do. Kind of just outlines, really it's a lot of stuff that has to do with rules and regulations of the mortgage business. And then once you complete that, you can go take your exam. I actually went a little bit of a different route when I got back from Florida and decided, hey, this is what I want. My dad had actually found this academy. It was called Zenix Academy, and they did like this 3-course breakdown of the mortgage business. The first was like kind of the backstory and all the rules and regulations, and then the second was like structuring deals and how to basically, like, kind of the day-to-day life of a loan officer and those sort of things. And so we decided that, or I guess, he thought maybe that would be a good place to start, since I really had no real estate background or no mortgage background whatsoever, other than just, obviously what he had told me. So, we started with that, and I bust through those courses within the first couple of months. And I still have huge binders with all the notes that I took and stuff from those courses. And then afterwards, I went on and did my 20 hours that were required, and then I actually went and took my test after that. So I actually failed my test the first time too. I think I marked like 35 or 40 questions for like come back and review. And I think I failed by like 2% points. You have to get like a 75%. I think I got like a 73 or 74 or something like that. And I knew right then and there, I'm like, if I had not marked like 35 questions to come back and re-review them again, because I changed probably at least 75% of the answers on the ones that I came back to review, I likely would have passed. And so obviously, like Zach said, when I first did it, I was a little bit upset, and just like, I was somebody in kind of the same situation. I excelled in school when it came to that sort of stuff. Could probably tell you that I didn't study much and still passed school exams. So you feel like that stuff kind of carries on to life. But these tests are a little bit different. Like, they're made to like legitimately stump you and to, make you question whether or not, it's so worded so perfectly to make you question what exactly it is that you're reading. But I think you have to wait like 30 days or whatever before you can go take one again. And so I ended up going back and taking it again. And this time I was like, I will mark no questions for review, whatever I feel it is in the moment. Even if I don't know, I'll put my best educated guess out there. Luckily, it was all multiple choice for the entire exam. So I was just like, nope, no marking any, click it and go. And I ended up passing that time. So, so lesson learned in life, do not be the type of person who goes back and, questions things. If you don't know in the moment, you're not going to know when you go back and look over it again. And there's a better percent chance that when you first read it in the moment, that you have a general idea, especially multiple choice, because at least typically it's two of the answers are not even remotely close to the truth. And then you have to pick between, one or two of them, for the 50-50, and take your best guess and go. So yeah, I got started. And after that, I was licensed 2018. So it's been crazy. It'll be 7 years in August that that I've been in the business. Crazy. So, I mean, I know you touched on it. Obviously, came out, got your internship with RZ Realty, and then have stuck with RZ Realty. I kind of been in the same position. I obviously was not an intern with Kaysen, but I, got hired on with Kaysen right after I passed my exam, and I've been with Kaysen ever since. Obviously, when COVID happened, there was a little bit of a weird thing there where most businesses were laying people off. So I did have that time period off where I didn't work there necessarily, but I've worked for no other mortgage companies other than Kaysen throughout the years. So
Yeah, and in addition to starting at RZ Realty, I think one of the biggest things that I learned very very quickly was what real estate can provide to individuals and to partnerships or businesses as a whole. What it can provide. I saw my broker and the real estate portfolio that he's built over the last 30 years. I see all the clients that we've worked for and the portfolios that they've um, built over the last x amount of years. And then so that really just motivated me to, number one, get my license to be able to help these types of people, number one, first time home buyers, investors, make their real estate goals a priority and a realistic thing, as well as begin to build my own portfolio of real estate to set myself up for later on in life as well. So I would say that that was the biggest thing that I learned to begin with at RZ Realty, and kind of pushed me on the path that I'm on now, of building that real estate as a whole. So
cool, awesome. Yeah, my journey through Kaysen has been a little bit of a different one. Lots of ups and downs. I mean, I know I touched on it, I think, on the first episode, but I've kind of been all over the industry. When I first got in, I obviously got licensed as a loan officer to originate loans. So for you, those of you guys that don't know, like, you don't have to have a license to be a processor, and to work in the mortgage business on that side of things. So my original goal was to be an LO and to produce my own, my own loans. So that journey did not necessarily go as planned. I mean, I was 21 going on 22, young, shy kid, and probably just had a lot of limiting beliefs about myself. And so, I used to go on office calls and try to build, I would say, I say try very lightly. I would try to build relationships with real estate agents. And honestly, I just didn't give it everything that I had. And it just didn't really end up working out. I tried that for about a year and a half. I worked other jobs during the process, just to keep myself kind of afloat. And then my dad was like, "Hey, this isn't really working. What about coming on and kind of taking on a position as my assistant, my processor or assistant first. Just trying to help me get these deals to the closing table, that sort of thing." And so, I started. This is where the journey kind of really began for me, because even when I was going out and trying to, sell myself or trying to, generate business by, building relationships, I didn't really know. I mean, I'd gone through the courses and stuff, but a lot of that stuff was more about, the federal laws and regulations that are, govern our business, and not really more so of the nitty gritty, day to day stuff. And so when I started assisting my dad on loan files and started seeing conditional approvals and started, working with clients on getting things gathered up, I started to really get an inside look as to what goes on inside the mortgage business and what makes these deals work, what makes them, basically tick. And so I think I did that for 6 months. And then we got a call from the owner of our company. It was like, "Hey, do you want Sam to move into your processor position full time?" Because we had a processor at the time who would handle a lot of things on the back end. And so we said yes, or I said yes. And so went to corporate office for some training and officially became a processor and kind of worked through that for the next couple of years. And so, I know we've talked about it a little bit throughout the process. But a processor is kind of like a little bit of a pre-underwriter. You're going to go through, get the file ready to go. And so at that point, I started talking to borrowers a lot more. I started, just kind of doing the ins and outs of what makes these deals get to the closing table. So my job at that point was, I wasn't bringing, clients in. I wasn't, anything like that. It was really just, okay, once we have the loan, once we have the contract, you put everything together and you get it to the closing table, and and help these people essentially buy a home. And so that was awesome for me because I feel like it helped me learn how to calculate income. It helped me learn the different loan guidelines and what, we can do for conventional, what we can do for FHA, things that we can't do, things that we can do, and those sort of things. And so it really just became like this inside look into what makes these loans work and what doesn't. And this was something that when you're 22 years old and you lack confidence in yourself and you have no idea, no earthly idea what, how to structure loans or anything, you don't know anything about the business, and you're going out trying to basically, generate confidence in these real estate agents that you're talking with, that if they were to send you a client, that you would be able to get it to the closing table, and you've never even seen a closing table at that point in time. It's really hard to feel confident in yourself and in your abilities. And so I feel like this was huge for me, and just taking kind of that route of, just getting these loans to the closing table and seeing what happens. And so afterwards, I moved into more of a loan officer assistant role, which in this business basically means you pre-approve clients. So you kind of now, again, you're still not bringing the clients in. You're not necessarily having the relationships with the real estate agents, but when they do come in, when you do get new clients, you're going through the pre-approval process with them, learning how to properly pre-approve loans, as well as still obviously taking care of things on the back end in that processing role. And that's kind of where I've been ever since. But actually, as the last 2 years have gone on, I've done more personal deals than I have ever in my life. So it's been great to actually get some of that under my own belt and continue to work for the loan officers in our company and helping them get their clients to the closing table while still learning, but also obviously starting to branch out a little bit more for myself and bring my own loans in. So that's been really cool.
It's awesome. Awesome, man. Great insight for sure. Do you so moving on, do you want to touch on a little bit of the maybe some an early win or a breakthrough that you experienced early on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any of those. I can't lie to you. I don't really remember very many early wins. So things were not great. I mean, I obviously already touched on it. I mean, it was a year and a half of, and again, I say try very, very lightly. I do not want to sit here and make you guys think that I was, balls to the wall, like out there, hustling, like crazy, like just trying to make it happen. I was not, and you bare minimum, and I used, complacency as an excuse. And as most kids, I was a kid, and I didn't recognize what was in front of me. And it doesn't help, again, when you don't have self-belief in yourself that you can do the things that you're trying to convince yourself that you can do. And so that was just kind of where I was. And I mean, obviously my early breakthrough probably didn't come until years down the road when, I finally had gotten a call from a real estate agent, that said, "Hey, I have a buyer for you." And it was like, "Oh, wow. I haven't, some of that stuff that I was doing did work." And if I had just stuck with it and still just, not only just stuck with it, but doubled down my efforts and actually bought in, like where could I have been had those things happen? And so, yeah, I mean, early wins probably just, first loan I closed personally, but again, that was some years down the road that those came in. So I honestly can't think of anything that jumps out. I would say the big breakthrough was obviously, getting the offer to come and learn the back end of the system would be the biggest breakthrough that I experienced. And because most people, when you go out, I've obviously been blessed to work with my dad. I've been blessed to work with my uncle. I've been blessed to work with people, that I know. And so I think that's extended some of the opportunities that I've obviously been given in this business a little bit more. Because most people, if you were just, I want to become a loan officer, and you didn't have those relationships, and you went out for a year and a half and you were making $0, you'd most likely just leave and just never, move on to the next thing and go to the next industry or whatever the case may be. But obviously I was offered the chance to work in a different sector, which then I think help produce more growth. So I would say that was probably the biggest breakthrough. Came at about a year and a half when the offer was, hey, let's go on this side of things and see how you like it. And obviously I kind of, fallen in love with it a little bit, just, how things work and that side of things. So
That's awesome for sure. Awesome. I think for me personally, there's one that just sticks out like a sore thumb, honestly. Like I mentioned earlier, I got licensed in November of 2020. And I immediately had a client that started looking to buy and sell at the same time. So we listed the condo to sell. We immediately got into the contract. And then our next task was to find something for her to buy to move out of the condo into the new home. Um, that did not work out as planned. I think she made probably 6 offers while her condo was in contract. All 6 offers were beat out by other offers in bidding wars. And that was how that market was in 2020. Unfortunately, into 2021 is every single property on the market had at least 3 offers, no doubt about it. So that was just how it was, unfortunately. But it was still very discouraging. And so once we got those 6 offers denied, the buyer for her condo actually came to her and said, "We don't want to wait any longer. We're ready to terminate this deal and move on." And so that was unfortunate in itself. Like we thought we had one step forward, and now we're 2 steps back. Um, and then, so at that point, we're still making offers on properties, continuing to get outbid, and I think by the point of making, I believe it was 15 offers or 16 offers, somewhere around there, we finally were able to secure a property. And I cannot even begin to describe how well that phone call to her went, that she finally was in contract on a property. When I got the email, my heart just sunk, my stomach just sunk, like in a good way, you know what I mean? Not in a bad way, but like it just, like everything just felt like
like a weight.
refreshing. Yes, a
Yeah.
big old weight off of my shoulders, even though we still had 45 days or 30 days in the contract process, that who knows what could go wrong in that. But it just felt like a weight was off my shoulders, that I could finally give some good news rather than bad news that she's been outbid again. And so that was my biggest breakthrough. It was completing that deal, closing that deal against all the adversity, because there were multiple times where she was ready to give up, obviously getting outbid, and there was multiple times where I was ready to tell her to give up and move on and you know what I mean, like just maybe push it down the road for a couple more months and see how the market is then. So I'm glad that we did not do that. I'm glad that we stuck to the grind and made stuff happen, and eventually we're paid off for it, because that just showed me that anything's possible. Obviously, anything that we put our mind to in the professional sense, a personal sense, whatever it is absolutely possible. We can achieve it. So that was 100% my biggest breakthrough, and I remember the feeling to this day, and I don't think I'll ever forget it, to be honest. So
Awesome, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, like you said, I mean, very, very common for back then. I mean, you came into the industry at a crazy time. Obviously just with I mean, and that was honestly kind of the time period where I kind of switched over myself personally. So, I hadn't really closed any loans prior to, 2020. So we both kind of, baptism by fire. It was nuts. And I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, obviously, yeah, 2020 rates got down. I mean, we still have clients that we locked in like 2.5%. Is probably one of the lowest rates I've seen. And like for reference, now we're at 6 or 7%. So it was a frenzy. It was one of the craziest. I mean, obviously we don't have much experience because we weren't around for the last 10, 15 years in the business, but it was definitely crazy to see. So it's been crazy to see the rebound of what's come after that. So
So moving on, Sam, what would be the number one piece of advice that you would give to a real estate professional or a potential real estate professional looking to get into the industry?
yeah, I mean, personally, I mean, I'm kind of biased towards, I guess, my career path a little bit. I mean, I think it just depends on who you are as a person. I've seen people that have come burst onto the scene and like lit up the mortgage industry and have had no prior experience in it whatsoever. For me personally, obviously, I think if it's something that you would want, my suggestion would be like if you wanted for the mortgage side of things, I can't speak to the real estate, but if on the mortgage side of things, if that's something you thought maybe you wanted, my advice would be maybe go try an entry level job as a processor again before you go into taking the course, before you go into having to deal with the test and paying the money for those things. Go try being a loan processor. See how the back end of things work. If you were to do that for a year and just kind of learn the ins and outs and then decide, yeah, this is something I want. I want to go be a loan officer. I think I would be great in sales. I think I would be great at building relationships and that sort of thing. Then I would say go take your test then. And not only will you feel, if you're somebody who is like that and you're great at sales and that sort of thing, then you're going to go take it by a storm. But also, I think that it's going to lessen the learning curve for you when it comes to structuring loans and getting loans to the closing table, because I think that's a big thing when you get in the business. And kind of like I talked about, if you don't know anything about the mortgage business, it's not to say that you can't close loans. It's not to say that you can't build those relationships, but you're going to be relying on a lot of people in your company and your team, and those sort of things to kind of get you through those. But if you had a year's worth of experience working on the back end of things, seeing how loans are structured, seeing how different things work, then when you go out and you start to take on, that sales part of the relationship building part of things, like I think you're going to go light it up and put it on fire, in my opinion. So that's kind of, my advice would be to, maybe start out. I think, my career trajectory would have been a little bit different had that been the route that I had started, without going out for a year and a half. But everything happens the way that it does, for whatever reason that is. And so that would be my suggestion. And if not, if you're somebody who just curious about the mortgage business and you want to go light it up, go take your exam. And it's a lot easier, I think, than the real estate side of things and a lot cheaper. I think the course is probably, two to $500 for the 20 hours. And then I think it's like $150 to go take your test. Now, obviously this is 2018. So, take inflation into account. So, it might be more expensive than that now, but, you can get in for probably less than 1,000. And, there's lots of great companies out there that you could go work for and get your license put under and go start originating loans. So, but yeah, that would be my advice.
Definitely. On my side of things, I would say the biggest thing that I would say is find a niche. There are so many different moving parts in real estate as a whole. It can be residential real estate, it can be investing in real estate, it can be commercial real estate, it can be multifamily, it can be so many different things that you get into. So really, just finding that niche that really just scratches that itch for you is what I would recommend most. And then second, make sure that you're finding a mentor slash mentors that really, really care about you as a person and your professional growth. Um, just being able to, be behind that mentor behind the scenes on when they're working on a deal or if they're negotiating with another agent, just being able to sit in on that phone call and learn from somebody obviously that's done it in multiple times. It's invaluable in my opinion. The time that I spent as an intern just listening to phone calls and listening to how business is conducted set me up to really on a path that was a positive one, obviously, to get me to where I am at today. I don't think I could have been, in the industry as a whole without the knowledge that I got from my internship in the year that I was in that role. Just taught me a lot about how both the real estate sales and brokerage side of things is, as well as the property management and investment side of things as well. So find a niche, find what really, scratches that itch for you, and then find a mentor slash mentors that really care about your personal growth and development. And I think that from there, you're going to be able to, have a lot of success in whatever avenue that you decide that you want it to have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I would say I don't know what the percentage are, but I know that a lot of people in life learn a lot more by doing and seeing than they are by reading or, being told basically, what to do. Whether that's in a school format or whether or not you're in a class, I'm not saying I didn't retain anything from that 20 hours, but getting into the business, running the day to days, that sort of thing is going to teach you far more than anything that you're going to sit down and watch on a computer screen or be told by somebody. So I think you're 100% right. Get out there, do it, and get yourself involved. And as soon as you do that, things are just going to start coming to you, and you're going to learn a lot faster that way. So, and finding a mentor is very, very important. I think that's a great one, just in life in general. find people that are where you want to be and figure out how they got there. That's the easiest path to getting there the quickest. And don't, in my opinion, don't listen to people that haven't done what you want to do. Because that ain't going to be very much help for you. So,
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And just having that person that you can pick their brain whenever you want or whenever they want, whatever it is, just, you know, if you're at 10 o'clock at night thinking about a deal and you give them a call and they are willing to answer and listen, like that is a very good mentor. So just all in all, you want to have somebody on your side looking out for you.
yep, absolutely. Well, y'all, yeah, little quick, I guess not a quick one. It's about 41 minutes later, but yeah, just thought it'd be cool to kind of bring you guys a little bit of an insight. I know we've been talking obviously a lot about, just different parts of the real estate business, but kind of just, felt like it might be important to give you guys a little bit of a insight into the backstory of, what led Zach and I both down this path to being here. I guess we didn't really talk about the other personal side of things or why we're here personally, but we were friends long before either of us ever got in the real estate business. So it just happened to work out that way, obviously, that we both chose paths, in that. So, the relationship obviously was formed prior to, but yeah, just thought it'd be cool. Give you guys a little bit of an insight as to, what our journeys look like to get here. And that way, we are people that actually, do close loans. We do work with clients every single day on this stuff. And, we're not just blowing smoke, I guess.
And we're not perfect either. Obviously, admitted that we both failed our test the first time and bounced
Yeah.
back from it and showed some resiliency. So obviously, just a little bit of insight into our lives as real estate professionals as a whole. So
Absolutely. Well, y'all, that's going to be a wrap for us today. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, feel free to give us a like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Any support helps. Obviously, us grow this channel and grow this movement and what we're trying to do, which is, educate people on things that are not necessarily readily available to learn. So hopefully, guys take something away from that, and we appreciate any share and any love you guys show.
absolutely, hope you guys had a good time with this episode, and we will see you guys on the next one.
All right, y'all. See ya.